We have lots of stories in our lives. We have lots of stories that we've been told. We've read lots of stories. We see stories in movies. There are stories everywhere. And we can use our stories to make ourselves small, to make ourselves big. But we can also find a story that helps us to be more of who we are. So the danger with a hero story is that you tell a story that's not really true and that exaggerates and makes you somehow feel great inside in a way that actually diminishes your power. So let's just look at that for a moment before we come to the truer kind of hero story. Just as we have stories that we hide behind and that make us small and keep us safe, the flip side of those is the stories that exaggerate who we are, that pretend that we're somebody much bigger than we are, and really we use them to lie to ourselves just in the same way that we keep ourselves small. They're stories that help us to prove ourselves in some way, and we play them out in our fantasies, and our minds spin them out into these amazing kinds of things, heroes' journeys that we're going to do. But the problem is that if they're based on an exaggeration or a kind of spinning of a story, it's actually really disempowering. It can feel good in the short term, temporarily. It's like, yes, I'm somebody, but there's an emptiness inside it, and you will know if you have that emptiness. It's as empty as the stories that make you small. And it's just as common. Probably everybody who has a story that makes you small also has a story that makes you big. It's the story of, I'm the person who's here to do this really special thing. And the inner sub-story of that is, but my life hasn't allowed me to do it yet, or things have got in the way, but I'm still the one. I'm still the special person here. And whilst there is a kind of truth in it, the real truth is that that story is not empowering you at the moment. It's giving you a full sense of self. It doesn't allow you to see yourself really clearly. So a good hero story allows you to see all the steps of the challenge. It allows you, let's say we're walking up a mountain, it allows you to see the top of the mountain, maybe very distant, but it allows you to see exactly where you are on the mountain in a very realistic way. So if your hero story is a grand mission, you want to create something powerful in the world, you want to make some kind of change, but your hero's reality is that you're very low down on the mountain, or you're in the middle of the mountain, or you're in the very rocky part of the mountain that you don't even know if you can get through. It's very helpful to be aware of that, for your story to actually help you to recognize the real challenges you face. Because what happens when we have those exaggerated hero stories is that we disregard the challenges. We don't show up for them properly. We just think, oh, I ought to be over there. I ought to be at the top of the mountain already. I ought to be already past this rocky stage. And so we actually don't show up properly for the challenges that are in our life. And we kind of skirt around them. We ignore them. We blame somebody else for the things that aren't going right. And we put them off. And then we find ourselves repeating the same story over and over again. I'm the one to do this amazing thing, and life has stuffed me up, and that's why I haven't been able to do it. And we it's like in our minds, we're at the top of the mountain already, and we're not willing to do the walk. It's like, I'm not strong enough to walk up this mountain. This is hard. This is too hard for me. I just want to be at the top. I just want to imagine I'm at the top, but I'm not willing to walk up. I'm not willing to get my climbing ropes out. I'm not willing to accept a helicopter ride. You know, if you really want an elevator, fine, get the helicopter, pull it in and accept it. But most people who have that kind of fake hero story are also not willing to accept the helicopter ride because they want to prove themselves. And when I say they, I'm talking about all of us. I've had plenty of these stories in my life. It's like, I want to be the one. So I think if I take the helicopter, then I've got to share the glory with somebody else. And that doesn't feel like very nice. This hero story is about me being a hero. This is my ego story. And yet I'm not strong enough to do the walk. And so it's kind of like what you do is you sit down and you tell the story in your mind. You don't show up for whatever the pathway is. And the interesting thing about a real hero story is that it's actually a story that enables you gradually, step by step, through a series of beautifully, precisely engineered challenges, if you like, to develop the strength and the discipline and the resilience and the skills and the talents and the abilities to make your way all the way to whatever it is at the top of the mountain. And in doing that, to build the skills and the inner skills and the outer skills for the next mountain. Because inevitably, if you're really a hero, to use, the old-fashioned language, it's rare that there's only one mountain. Very often, from creating one good in the world, creating one gift in the world, you get to the vantage point where you can see that there are so many more things that you could do. There's so much more that you could give. There are so many more challenges you could take on. So in reflecting on this story of your life, if it makes you feel humble, if it makes you feel somewhat in awe of the story, that's a really good sign. If it makes you feel like, oh, I'm so great, that's not a very good sign. The true stories make us feel like, yes, I'm up for it. We can sometimes feel somewhat daunted by it. It doesn't feel easy. It's a sense of choosing yourself, saying, yes, I will. This is what I'm here for. This is what I really care about. This is what really means something to me. This is the change in the world that I would love to contribute to. And this is what I would love to create through this. And I'm willing to have whatever help I need to be able to do that. So a hero story that puts you on your own is not a powerful hero story. A powerful hero story makes the mission more important than your ego. So where help is offered, you willingly accept it. There's an interesting challenge in that. For many leaders, their hero stories make it hard for them to accept help. They can accept it in certain ways where they can maintain control. For example, through employment, where it gives them a sense of power and control. Not always the case. Of course, it's possible to be much more enlightened than that. But it's very common in leadership situations that people will do anything to maintain control. That is where you and your story is more important than the mission that you're on. When the mission is more important, you naturally and automatically enroll people in that to help you to do it. And the story will guide you in that direction. It doesn't matter whether you're good at that or not. If you're not good at it, it becomes the next rocky patch that you need to walk up. And you get better at doing rocks by going up rocks. You get better at doing slippery slopes by walking up slippery slopes. You get better at finding shortcuts by looking for and finding shortcuts. So we get better at all of these things by actually doing them. And there is no real shortcut to that. It's through life. We're talking about life here. It's through life. It's through showing up for your life. It's through accepting the challenges that are in front of you and finding your way through them or overcoming them, not saying that shouldn't be happening to me. I'm not that kind of person. I remember really clearly when my sister was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and my initial response was, that doesn't happen to people like me. That doesn't happen to families like mine. It was so incomprehensible to me that something like that could happen. It just felt like it wasn't right. It was all wrong. And there's a tremendous denial in that, of course, but it did happen. And as it turned out, it totally changed my life, because I wouldn't be doing any of this stuff if it hadn't been for that, or if it hadn't been for that, it would have been something else. And as I was then stubborn in my own self-righteousness, it would have taken a fairly hard knock to shake me out of that. Now, part of the purpose of what we're doing here is to prevent those hard knocks. If you show up every day for the training, for the discipline, for the development of your resilience and your spirit and all those other qualities, life doesn't knock you so hard. Life knocks you hard when you get injured in the first battle because you were too arrogant to show up for the training. You thought, no, I know better than that guy who's teaching me swordmanship skills. Look, you can see it. The young people in movies, like, hey, look at I can do all of it. I'm amazing. I can feel my power. Send me out to battle. I'm ready for the battle. I'll show you everybody what I can do. And then someone comes up from behind them. They don't have that inner intuition honed by practice to feel it and to swing round in the key moment where they could never have seen what happened, and suddenly they're injured. They don't know what hit them, and it's an intensely humbling moment. And I'm sure that we have all had those. I've had plenty of them. So the point about doing all this inner work is, the daily activations, the daily exercise of your energy is to develop that resilience and skill and intuition, that knowing when something's happening, even when you can't see it, responding to it. I had a great simple example yesterday. We had a power cut yesterday morning, and I'd completely forgotten. We'd been told exactly what time it would be. And I had a whole lot of videos and audios that I needed to upload. And I'd been planning to do them right in the middle of the power cut, when it would have been really difficult, or actually impossible. And early in the morning, just after recording the plus 20, Nico said to me, Sarah, just upload those recordings. Why don't haven't you got a whole lot of them? Why don't you upload all of them now? I don't know why he said it. I don't think that he'd necessarily remembered the power cut as well. But that's a perfect example of something that was coming up that I wasn't looking at, I'd forgotten about, wasn't fully aware of. But because we have practiced, like in the old days, he often wouldn't say things. He used to stifle something that he felt. And then over and over again, he used to say, I knew that was going to happen. Why didn't I say? And now he says much more often whatever comes into his mind, perhaps not quite knowing why, because probably he would have rather we went out to exercise straight away yesterday. I had everything uploaded. Everything worked out perfectly. I didn't need to use my computer and the internet during the power cut. And it's such a small thing, but I had a lot to do yesterday. And if I'd been hit by the power cut unawares, there are a whole lot of things that I wouldn't have got done in time. And it's a small example, but it's the kind of example that makes life easier. And it's the kind of example that happens when you do this energy exercise every day. So I know that through the activations, in many ways, I stretch you every day in a different direction. It's really like a training for your energy, for your soul, for your heart, for your mind, and for your being, for your awareness. And it's like every single day a new challenge, every single day a different feeling, every single day a different energy. And this is practice for being present, practice for finding the track in the middle of all the confusion, the kind of scrum of human life, especially today when it's so volatile, there's so much negativity on the surface, we need something that really holds us very steady at the core. And it's this kind of story that reminds you who you are really, and reminds you of your purpose, of your core purpose, reminds you of your direction, gives you a sense of mission. So it's not just all spiritual stuff. It gives you that sense of mission as well. It gives you a story you can tell about your life. It gives you a story that you can shape and form and refine from day to day as you move forward through your life and you become more skillful in life. And it gives you something that you are sharing, that you're contributing to the world. So it makes you aware of your responsibilities beyond yourself. Because one of the problems about the old-fashioned hero story, which is all about me, is that people become very moody. They become very, for example, people can become very controlling and hard and harsh towards people. They can be moody or arrogant. They can be angry. Sometimes people can be very depressed. I've known people in tremendously powerful positions, running huge corporations, who are fundamentally depressed and having to put on a show every single day that they show up for work, running massive budgets with huge responsibility, political, financial, across multiple markets, safety responsibilities, all kinds of things that are daunting for any human being. And they're fundamentally depressed. And the thing is about that kind of journey is that your inner state affects everybody around you. So if you don't realize, if your journey doesn't have that full awareness of your impact on other people and your contribution to other people, you don't care how you feel. You don't care if you're moody. You don't care if you're having an off day today and you put that onto other people because you think it's about you. It's not consciously. Consciously, you think it's about your grand mission and the success that you're creating and your profit for the quarter or whatever it is. But it becomes so much about you that it diminishes the human part of you. It emphasizes profit over humanity. And the thing is that the energy that emanates out of you as a leader then is an energy that is fundamentally not aligned with life, not life affirming. You can't destroy life. So it's not really destructive. It's just absolutely it's an untrue, non-powerful energy. Does nothing for anybody else around you. So when we have this hero story that aligns us with who we truly are and enables us to do that inner work that is absolutely essential for any leader, and anybody who really wants to create positive change needs to be developing that kind of inner self-mastery in order to be able to create change that is genuinely life-affirming, aligned with life, aligned with love, and creates more goodness in the world. And that's why we do these exercises every single day. That's why we do this disciplined training of taking care of our inner state, becoming more flexible in our inner state, being able to connect with purpose and your hero story and see your hiding story and handle very difficult moods and help other people and shine a light and deal with confusion and manage your sense of guilt. And I don't know, I've been looking through all the topics recently that I've recorded over the last year, and they just go on and on and on and on. There's so much exercise that's going on during this. So this is the inner training. This is the discipline that will enable you in a time of peak pressure, and there will be times of peak pressure, to handle yourself like a hero with, you know, those extraordinary skills that you see in, let's say, the movie Gladiator, where people know what's happening. They respond to the attack that they couldn't see. They seem to have a kind of force field around them that enables them to survive in the most unbelievable, impossible conditions, where I know I would step onto that battlefield and I would be killed in an instant. You know, just, I can't even begin to imagine. But, you know, these are not the battles we're fighting in this life. And we're not fighting for that destruction of another civilization or fighting just to create more power for ourselves. We're fighting for a better life. We are fighting against, if you like, the darkness that is in ourselves. We're not really fighting against it. We're actually fighting for love, for growth, for light that shines into the darkness. Just always remember, when the light shines, there are still dark parts of the room. When the light shines, the black is still black, but you can see that it's black. When the light's not shining, everything is black. Everything's the same. When the light shines, there's still dark, there's still light, there's still color, there's still shade, there's still deep shadows and bright light. That's all there. And so it's to be able to shine that light into the darkness and illuminate all the color of life. That's the kind of hero. And that may be done through any kind of business. It doesn't mean you have to go out and be a coach or something. You can do any kind of business, almost, maybe not any kind of business, many kinds of business. But there's a self-responsibility, there's a self-mastery, there's a self-alignment with life, with love, with what's important and what's true in life. So as you shape your story, bear all of this in mind to create a story that's really powerful and that will help you in the moments of greatest challenge, when you may feel as though you've completely lost control. That's a powerful story.